Hello everyone, it's Scott and we're back with the Mythic Rares from the set. So Tarkir Dragonstorm has a really good number of Mythic Rares that I think are rankable. So rather than just kind of do a top 10, I just decided to go ahead and rank all 20, kind of give you an idea where they stand for Standard. But before we get into the list, remember to like and subscribe to get further content like this throughout Tarkir Dragonstorm season and beyond. And if you're looking for cards from the set, you can always check us out on the web at caffeinatedgamers.tcgplayerpro.com. So let's dive into the top 20 Mythic Rares. So at 20, I've got Perenation. My reasoning for this is that we've got better reanimation spells at 4 mana. Getting Hexproof and Indestructible is a nice addition to it, but I think in the end, there's just better stuff in Standard right now that's at a lower mana cost. At number 19, I've got Arini, the Song Unending. I think the real reason I've got this at 19 is it's 8 mana to cast, and yes, it's a 10/10 and it deals damage when it comes into play, but are you likely to be able to play it by turn 5? And my thought is it's probably not going to happen that early in the game. So this would have to be, kind of a late game, maybe a finisher card. And I don't know if Teamer would want that given where Standard is right now with the speed of it. Coming in at number 18 is Death Begets Life for 5 and Soul Time mana, destroy all creatures, destroy all enchantments, draw a card for each permanent destroyed this way. So this is one of those crazy spells where you can draw a ton of cards in the mid to late game. So I think, maybe those Soul Tide decks might want a copy or two of this at most in their deck, but I think the 8 mana is just too much to overcome in Standard because Standard is a relatively fast format, and because that 8 mana is going to be hard to get to. Coming in at number 17 is Dracogenesis. And again, this is the problem with Dracogenesis. It's 8 mana, and you may cast dragon spells without paying their mana cost, which is fantastic, but it is 8 mana. I think in Commander and other formats like that, this is more likely to see play there. At number 16, All Out Assault. Okay, 5 mana for this one. In Mardu colors, you get an enchantment. All your creatures get +1/+1 and Death Touch. And when this enchantment enters, if it's your main phase, there is an additional combat phase after this phase, followed by an additional main phase. When you next attack this turn, untap each creature you control. So I think this is a really powerful card, but again, I don't know if this really has a home anywhere in particular in Standard. I like that you can get an extra combat phase, but again, the problem is 5 mana. In a lot of games, we might not even be able to get to 5 mana with all the spot removal and have enough creatures on the board for it to matter at that point in the game. Coming in at number 15, I've got Vitor, Kin to All. 5 mana in Abzan colors, Spirit Dragon 5/7. And it's got a lot of cool abilities on it. At the beginning of your end step, hey, if creatures you control have total toughness 10 or greater, you get to draw a card. If they've got 20 or greater, untap each creature. And then if it's 40 or greater, each opponent loses half their life, rounded up. So again, a really good card on its surface. I just don't know if we're going to have an Abzan deck in Standard right now. I mean, I think it's a really powerful card, but the question is there a deck that it goes into? Next is Smile at Death at number 14. 5 mana enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, return up to 2 target creature cards with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And you get to put a +1/+1 counter on each of those creatures. Again, 5 mana. And we already have a 4 mana reanimation spell that brings back everything that costs 2 mana or less. So I think this is competing with that. And because of that, I don't think this sees Standard play. Next, we've got at number 13, Rot Curse Rakshasa. A 1 and a black mana. You get a demon. It's a 5/5. It's got Trample and Decay. And it also has Renew for X and 2 black mana. Exile this card from your graveyard, put a Decay counter on each of X target creatures. Activate only as a sorcery. So I think this is a really cool card. Certainly the Demon deck, I think, would want to play this because it's going to be really powerful. Playing this on turn 2 and then playing your room on turn 3. So I think in that deck this fits, but I don't know if it sees play outside of that deck, and that's why I've ranked it at 13. Next we've got at number 12, Dragonback Assault. And Teamer mana, you get an enchantment, and when this enchantment enters, it deals 3 damage to each creature and each planeswalker, and it has landfall, and when a land you control enters the battlefield, create a 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying. So I think this is a card that is going to have to go in the right deck. But the landfall trigger ability here, if we can ramp into this and get there by turn 4, then the rest of the game, if your opponent can't deal with this, every time you play a land, you get a 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying, and I think that's really powerful in Standard. And again, the question is there going to be a deck that can be built around that ability? Coming in at number 11, I've got Call the Spirit Dragons for 1 of each mana. You get an enchantment, and dragons you control have Indestructible. And at the beginning of your upkeep for each color, put a +1/+1 counter on a dragon you control of that color. If you put a +1/+1 counter on 5 dragons this way, you win the game. So we know with the tricolored lands that we got from the set that going 5 colors isn't unimaginable in Standard right now. And with all the ramp spells we have, I think this actually has a chance in a dragon deck of being a really powerful spell, and that's why I've got it ranked at number 11. Next, at number 10, I've got Craterhoof Behemoth for 5 and 3 green mana. You get a beast that's a 5/5 with haste, and when this creature enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the total number of creatures you control. So very powerful creature that has seen a lot of Standard play in the past. Given the current format, we really haven't seen green spells that cost this much really see Standard play, but maybe Craterhoof Behemoth is the exception to that. At number 9, I've got Taegam, Master Opportunist for 1 and a blue mana. You get a human monk, that's a 2/2 with flurry, and when you cast your second spell, each turn copy it, then exile the spell you cast with 4 time counters on it. If it doesn't have suspend, it gains suspend. So this is one of those cards that I think in either a Jeskai spells deck or an Izzet spells deck, I think is going to be really powerful because you play this on turn 2, and on turn 3 you're probably casting 2 spells. On turn 3 and 4 and 5, you're going to be casting multiple spells almost every single turn. So you're going to get a copy of it, and then eventually you're going to get to play the original spell without playing as mana cost. So I think under those circumstances that this is a card that could be very good in Standard. At number 8, I've got Elspeth, Storm Slayer for 5 mana. Elspeth is a legendary planeswalker, 5 loyalty, and the key thing here on Elspeth, I think, is if 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many of those tokens are created instead. Now, we got other cards that do this as well, but I think Elspeth, because she's a planeswalker and not a creature, it's going to be harder to get rid of Elspeth than regular creatures, and because of that, I think this is going to see play in a lot of token strategies. And for +1, you get to create a 1/1 white soldier creature token, which means you're going to create 2. And then for 0, you can put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, and those creatures gain flying until your next turn. So again, that 0 ability, everything that's on the field gets a +1/+1 counter, gains flying. You do that once or twice, and you're probably going to win the game. And if you need to, you can -3 and destroy any target creature your opponent has with mana value 3 or greater. So it's going to kill the Sheoldreds and other things like that that you need to get off the board. At number 7, I've got Storm Scale Scion for 4 and 2 red mana. You get a dragon. It's a 4/4 with flying. Other dragons you control get +1/+1, and it also has Storm. And the Storm ability is why I think this could be a surprise card in Standard. Storm is a powerful ability. For every spell you cast, you get another copy of that. And if you can cast 1 or 2 spells before you cast Storm Scale Scion, then you're get 3 or 4 copies of it, and that's just a powerful ability on its own. So I think this has a chance of being really powerful in Standard. Next, at number 6, I've got Jeskai Revelation for 4 and Jeskai colors. You get an instant, and you get to return target spell or permanent to its owner's hand. Jeskai Revelation deals 4 damage to any target. You get to create 2 1/1 white monk creature tokens with prowess and draw 2 cards and gain 4 life. Now, the downside of this card is that it's 7 mana, but we do have cards currently in Standard that help reduce the cost of instants and sorceries. So I think putting those in this deck with Jeskai Revelation in a Jeskai build, I really feel like that's going to make this card playable in Standard, and you get so much value for that 7 mana that maybe it's only 1 or 2 copies in your deck, but when you cast this, it's going to be really hard for your opponent to win the game after you've destroyed, a creature or done 4 damage to your opponent. You get a couple creatures, you gain some additional cards, you gain some life, and because of that, I think this is really, really, really powerful. And number 5, I've got Tival, Arbiter of Virtue for 5 mana. You get a legendary creature that's a spirit dragon. He's a 6/6 with flying and lifelink, and has very powerful abilities. Spells you cast have Delve, and we've got things like Insidious Roots already in Standard that will take advantage of that. And we've got some other cards when you take something out of your graveyard, you gain life or you create something. So I think this is going to be the shell where Tival is going to shine. Now, the downside is when you cast a spell, you lose life equal to its mana value, but as long as you've got some other ways to gain life in the deck, I think it's not going to matter that much. At number 4, I've got Neriv, Heart of the Storm for 1 and Mardu colors. You get a spirit dragon that's a 4/5 with flying, and if a creature you control that entered this turn would deal damage, it deals twice that much damage instead. So very powerful dragon here, and I think you're going to be playing this in a hasty Mardu style deck where you cast this on turn 4. On turn 5, hey, you've got some things that are going to be created, like tokens, that are going to enter the battlefield on that turn, and then you just do some damage with that, and you're doubling that damage every time it happens. And I think because of that, Neriv is going to be an important card in Standard over the next couple of years. Next, I've got at number 3, Shiko, Paragon of the Way for 2 and Jeskai mana. You get a legendary creature that's a spirit dragon and is a 4/5 with flying and vigilance. And when Shiko enters the battlefield, you get to exile target non-land card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard, and you get to copy it. Then you may cast the copy without paying its mana value. So the nice thing is it's any card with mana value 3 or less. So anything that you've played prior to this, you can cast again, whether it's a stock up or something like that. So I think this is a very powerful creature that is going to have a home in a Standard deck in the coming season. And number 2, I've got Mox Jasper for 0 mana. You get a legendary artifact. You get to add 1 mana of any color. Activate only if you control a dragon. Now, the big thing here is that we know that there are 3 mana dragons in the set, so I don't think it's going to be difficult to get to a place where you're going to be able to activate Mox Jasper, and that ability to just get for no mana in essence, a free card onto the battlefield. And we know Moxes historically have been very powerful, and I expect Mox Jasper to be equally as powerful in the format. And at number 1, I've got Ugin, Eye of the Storm for 7 mana. You get a legendary Planeswalker, Ugin with 7 loyalty. And when you cast this spell, exile up to 1 target permanent. That's 1 or more colors. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, exile up to 1 target permanent. That's 1 or more colors. So Ugin is an incredibly powerful Planeswalker. That static ability there is really powerful, where you're going to be able to probably very consistently, hey, you're casting colorless spells, and because they're colorless, you're going to be able to, in essence, remove one of your opponent's creatures or permanents on that given turn. And I think that's so powerful in Standard, that you can basically have Ugin become a pseudo board wipe depending on how you're using Ugin. He also has a +2 ability. You gain 3 life, you get to draw a card. For 0 mana, you can add 3 colorless mana, and for -11, you can search your library for any number of colorless non-land cards, exile them, then shuffle. Until end of turn, you may cast those cards without paying their mana cost. So I think where Ugin's going to shine is in a deck that's mostly colorless cards. You're going to have removal, you're going to have some ramp in there as well, so you can ramp into Ugin. And I'm almost thinking, that we're gonna find a way to get to Ugin's ultimate quickly in Standard, and because of that, I have a feeling that Ugin is going to be one of the most important cards in Standard over the next several years. All right, those are the 20 Mythic Rares from Tarkir Dragonstorm as I rank them. Hey, tell me what you think in the comments. Do you like something better than I do? You think something's going to be an all-star that I missed? And I'll be doing some additional videos over the next few days. Next will be our top 15 rares from the set. And I've also left a link here to our playlist and the subscribe button, because we'd really appreciate you subscribing, because we're trying to get to 300 subscribers. Thanks again for staying to the end of the video, and I will see you in the next one.